Southern California, AM-1220 KHTS. Your host, Fred Arnold, on the Valley Industry Association Business Spotlight. I'm joined by my good friend Dan Mortensen with Mortensen Law. He practices estate planning, business succession planning, wills, trusts, laws. And the guy knows it very, very well. I've known Dan for probably a decade now. You've been doing this for a couple decades now, and just a great guy, involved in a lot of charities here in Santa Clarita Valley. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Fred. Great to be here.
So let's talk a little bit, jump right into it, because it's something I think that's really important. You've been doing this for 20 years. Tell me about what you specialize in.
Well, we have a very narrow practice area, Fred. We focus on the California Probate Code and the related planning, administration, and if necessary, probate code litigation, wills and trust contests, defending fiduciaries like an executor or trustee from that type of contest.
The most important part, though, Dan, is people coming to see you before they pass to set it up so that when they do pass, because nobody wants to talk about it, right? But when they do pass, those that are the heirs really have a clear vision of how the estate needs to close up, and a strategy on it being closed up that's not so expensive.
No, Fred, it's really a drop in the bucket compared to what it saves. I mean, the difference in cost to administer an estate where there's no planning versus one where everything is laid out in black and white, precisely who is in charge and exactly what they are instructed to do. That's day and night difference in cost, in stress, in family unity. Yeah,
family. I love you said that. Family unity. Cost and stress is one thing, but the brothers and sisters getting along when everything's clearly pointed out and there's not this fighting or this vagueness. Absolutely critical. One of the best gifts you can give your children.
Yeah, I think really, at some point it's a rite of passage, Fred. At some point you have a family, you have assets, and it's your duty to lay out, to put your affairs in order and not leave a big sink full of dirty dishes for someone else to clean up after you're gone.
Yeah, let's talk about a few parts of the trust. You have a trust. You have estate planning, you have a trust. The different elements of a trust, I'll throw a few out there. One is the actual will itself.
Mm-hmm. So the estate plan has several components. The will does a couple of things. One, it is where you can nominate a guardian for minor children. It also is a place where you can designate disposition of your last remains if you have a specific desire for cremation or burial in a certain place or manner. It also provides a pour-over mechanism so that any assets that were not owned by the trust at the time of your death get poured over into the trust, and everything is distributed under the distributive provisions contained in the trust.
And you can also go as far as saying, hey, I want my nephew Joey to get my 67 Mercedes, right? Or you can actually be really specific on what you want.
You can be very specific, but generally that's done in the trust, not the will.
In the trust, okay. The difference between the two. Let's talk about someone can have a will, but they don't have a trust. And if you have a will without the trust, what challenges that create?
Well, Fred, I guess there's good, better, and best. If you have a will and nothing else, that is a list of instructions to the probate court judge who runs your probate, who you want him to appoint to be your executor, what powers you want them to have, and whether or not you want them to have to post a bond to ensure their faithful performance of their duties as executor. It gives you some control. It allows you to specify who you want to receive the assets at the end of the probate and who you want to be in charge of running the probate. But it certainly doesn't avoid probate. It is a list of instructions for the probate court judge to follow. A trust takes you completely outside the probate court system.
So you don't have to go through the probate system.
You avoid the entire process. And I just filed a probate. We filed tons of probates for people who didn't have things set up with a trust. And I just filed one, and I got a hearing date. I'm on the docket for the middle of August. So over 4 months to get my petition heard downtown. They've consolidated all the courts downtown now. There was primary probate court jurisdiction in Van Nuys for many years, And now those courts have been closed and everything is consolidated downtown. So the lines are long, and it's just a slow, costly process.
Yeah, and you avoid a lot of. Well, what else is in a trust? I know there's the medical directive.
The Advanced Healthcare Directive allows you to designate who you want to have legal authority to make healthcare decisions for you in the event you're unable to make them yourself. So, for example, pick your doctor, pick your hospital, demand a second opinion, move you to a different hospital. All of those are things that you would be able to do if you had the capacity to do so, but someone else needs to be able to do and have the legal authority to do if you lack capacity. Maybe you're under anesthesia or unconscious or, for whatever reason. It authorizes someone to be able to consent and act on your behalf
when
if
you
can't.
Yeah, and so that's what a trust does. Act on your behalf when you're unable to, and clarifies that. And I think it's just the cornerstone of your. It's like a financial planning. It's like life planning. That's a cornerstone, isn't it?
Well, it is. I think really people need to have someone that they can trust for this to be effective, and that is a problem we do run into sometimes, is that people don't have a sibling, they don't have a friend, they don't have a child that they can really trust for these things. So occasionally that's an issue, but if you are blessed with someone who has your best interest at heart and cares about you, this type of planning really is important.
Absolutely critical. Let's talk real quickly about some of the work you do with taxation.
Well, Fred, I didn't stop with law school. I went on and got a postdoctoral degree in tax law called an LLM. And then I sat for an examination called the tax bar here in California, which is one of the steps in seeking to be board certified as a tax attorney here in the state. There's about 400 of us in the state, and I'm the only one in Santa Clarita, so I'm pretty happy with that. There's a pretty thin percentage of tax attorneys out of the 250,000 attorneys in the state.
Yeah, that's great. It's a special designation. Just real quickly, we have about 1 minute. What's the difference between probate litigation from regular civil litigation?
Well, that is a great question and shouldn't be lost on people. Claims arising in the context of a decedent's estate, whether that is a trust contest, a will contest, or just a claim you had against the decedent, really need to be brought by someone who is familiar with probate code litigation. It is vastly different, and we see civil litigators all the time come in and think, oh, I'm sure I can do this, and they just get shellacked because you need that specialized. It's very different. There's no right to a jury trial in probate. It's all bench trials. The procedures are different. There's timelines and notices, and it's specialized enough. It's very important to have someone that is focused on probate litigation and trust litigation.
Versus somebody that practices civil litigation as a
General
practice.
civil,
Yeah. Smart business ideas. So those that want to reach out to you, and I know I've been sending my clients to you for years. You have a great new building you've had for a couple of years there on Lyons.
Love it, yes. We're happily a part of Old Town Newhall, and
that whole
it's
part.
just great.
22807 Lyons Avenue, Newhall, 91321. Always out there for the parade on the 4th of July. Right in front there.
Drop by.
Yep. Phone number.
799-9225, course area code 661. And or you can read up on these things on mortensenlaw.com if you're so inclined. We've got a pretty extensive website there, too.
Yep, we've got a lot of great information. Thanks for coming in, as always. Thanks for your work in town.
Always a pleasure.
My best to Morgan and your team. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Valley Industry Association. Shows Fred Arnold on AM-1220 KHTS.